PowerPoint's counting down. 9, 8, 7, 5, 3, 1, 0. Alright, so it's time to begin our services here. We'll do that with a prayer first and then the pledge. This Bob, not to be confused with all the other Bobs in the room, is going to lead us in prayer. If everybody would stand at this time. Jimmy, press pause in your flirtations with the ladies. We're going to pray.
Oh, Lord, thank you for this opportunity to gather together, to exercise our freedoms and to retain them. Give us a clear mind and understanding that we might understand the things, that we might act in a way that's worthy of you, and may you be glorified in all we do, Lord. Amen.
Attention colors. And salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Let's take care of announcements. I don't have a note card with me, so I'll just try and remember, and you guys can remind me as we go along what we need to announce. First of all, please turn off your cell phones as a courtesy to those who hold the microphone and get flustered by such things as random ringing when they're talking. That would be great. Let's see. Stick your bubble gum under the table. Take crying babies to the bar, even though that's against the law. Oh, you'll notice the air conditioning works this week. They put a whole new unit in. On top of the new unit, they put in a backup unit up there. So if one goes out, you can turn on the other. Isn't that cool? That's how much they love us. Let's see. I have a card right up here that says thank you. This is for Miss Sally Kern. It's thanking her for her service. She's term limited out. She will be our speaker next Wednesday, a week from today. So if you haven't already, come up and put your name and gracias on the card to Sally Kern. Let's see, what else? I know Frank had an announcement. Frank Volpe is here. We'll let him talk about a meeting coming up on a rally coming up on Friday.
Yep, we're going to have another rally this Friday. It's my name is Frank Volpe. I'm also part of the Victims of Eminent Domain nonprofit, and our duty and our responsibility is to protect people's property rights. And we are working on stopping right now the Eastern Turnpike Loop, as it's going to come through and rip through a bunch of rooftops. So we're going to have a rally this Friday, 12 August, 5:30 at the Choctaw Pavilion at Choctaw Park. And the nonprofit, so far in regard to this, as we prepare for a legal battle, we've raised close to $80,000. We have a very serious effort out there. This is no joke. We have Groves and Associate. We have completed our Freedom of Information Acts, as they're going through about 15,000 OTA emails. And we have 4 different courses of action that we are looking at that are all viable in order to bring this to an end. And what you have with the OTA, why does it matter? Is you have a group of unelected officials that are appointees that have more rights over your property than you do. Title 69 gives them the authority to obtain private property by means they deem appropriate. This is not the Soviet Union, where you have a group of people that can just come and say, we're going to come on your land and look at it and then take it. And when you hear the fair market value speech, we have recordings of people getting, oh, that piece of land right there, yeah, John, we're not going to give any compensation for that. But this other piece we are. So they're starting with a plan to just take people's property. And we're going to fight it. This is our land and it's our duty. So this Friday, you want to be there. I know we're going to have some singing of the national anthem. We might even have some music, but there's going to be a burger or hot dog burn going on. And it's an informative meeting to let you know what we're doing. We are not going to give away the details of our courses of action, though, because we're going to let the lawyers do that. And Groves has had success in litigating property right issues against transportation groups before. So thank you very much. I hope to see you on Friday. I'll be handing out these cards.
All right, appreciate it. Any other announcements from the audience? Okay, we are 13 days away from the primary runoff election, so we're going to be really focused on that in the emails the next 2 weekends and some brief discussion today. I put up here some of the candidates that we have endorsed, and I've actually kind of put them in the order of importance of how they need your help. Amanda Teagarden up in Tulsa, Mike Reynolds for court clerk in Cleveland County, Scott McEachin, and then also Paul Blair. We'll talk about Paul in a minute. I'll let one of his campaign people do that when we get to that point. So, if you have any charitable giving left this month, if you can get a check written and sent before this weekend, that will help these candidates pay for their last-minute postcards and things like that. That will hit the mailbox and help retire debt. Some of them, like Mike Reynolds, have paid for this on their own and are in hock and need our help to try and win these races. Another one I didn't put on the screen is Joe Newhouse in Tulsa, who's up against an establishment educrat candidate in Kramer. There's a good article in the Tulsa Beacon about these candidates. I'll try and link to that this weekend. I asked Mike if he was going to be here today, and he said no, but I got these great videos from Mike. They're real short, so that'll be fun to watch Mike here, and then we'll go on from there.
Court clerk on August 23rd. Serving on the county budget board is fiscally the most important part of the court clerk's duties. The budget board is made up of elected county officials and is responsible for the appropriation and distribution of your property tax dollars. The taxes are primarily used for county buildings, salaries, roads, bridges, and schools. As a small business owner and previous legislator, I understand that waste can easily destroy a budget. We're seeing that now at the state level with the massive cuts to our schools and other essential services. As your court clerk, I will ensure our tax dollars are used wisely at the most critical functions of government, like law enforcement, schools, and roads, are the priority. Please don't forget to vote for Mike on August 23rd. Thank you.
That's in Cleveland County, by the way. So if you're in Cleveland County, get out of bed on Tuesday in 2 weeks and go vote for Mike. There will be no transgender bathrooms.
Hi, my name is Mike Reynolds, and I'm asking for your vote for Cleveland County Court Clerk on August 23rd. On a daily basis, the most important aspect of the court clerk's office is managing the employees that are responsible for storing and digitizing the legal records of Cleveland County and making sure these records are easily available to the public, judges, attorneys, and others. Records range from criminal and civil case documents to things as simple as marriage licenses. I have the best qualifications serving as the manager of data administration for a major oil company before starting my own computer consulting company, New Creations Software, which specializes in the development of custom software for small to medium-sized businesses. My 40-plus years of management and leadership experience make me the perfect candidate for the role of Cleveland County Court Clerk. Please don't forget to vote for Mike on August 23rd. Thank you.
Man, we could applaud, but he's not here to hear it. Okay, any other announcements?
John, when does he play these anyway? When does Mike play? Where does he air them?
They're on his Facebook page. Mike Reynolds for court clerk.
So we can go to his Facebook page and share it.
Yes, that's a great idea. See, I'm totally not very tech savvy. So all you young whippersnappers that know Facebook, find that video, share it. Share it all around so it'll spread. And then you can always call Mike to get his address to send him a check. I might have that somewhere. Okay, let's see. We have secured a banquet speaker for next February. His name is Curtis Bowers. He's the director and producer of 2 documentary films. The first one is called Agenda. The second one is called Agenda 2. He got real creative with the sequel there on naming it. He is an Idaho legislator. And like many legislators, he gets into this whole process because he's fed up with things. But he actually doesn't know how things work. And so he raises money and he wins the beauty contest and he ends up being a representative. And then he arrives there thinking he's going to make a difference, and lo and behold, all these crazy bills start landing on the floor of the house there, and he's going, what is this? Who wrote this? What does this even mean? Just crazy stuff. And he starts digging, and he starts to realize, as we all know, that all the different things we care about are interconnected. Whether it's stopping abortion or making sure we can defend ourselves with firearms, breaking up the family, maintaining a monopoly and government control of education, maintaining the oligarchy that controls the international banking cartel, all of these things, we realize that there's a connection there, that it's about statism and communism and control by a powerful elite. That these aren't separate battles, it's one war going on. And so Mr. Bowers didn't figure that out till after he was elected. So there's something in that for us to learn and to realize that we have over 100 guys down in our state capitol, and they don't all get that. And they won't get that unless we spend time with them in their offices, giving them materials, giving them videos, inviting them to our meetings and our banquet, and so forth. So I just want to watch one trailer for Agenda 1, just to whet your appetite for what this guy has produced. And then in a couple of weeks, maybe we'll watch the other trailer.
Hello. In the traditional motion picture story, the villains are usually defeated. The ending is a happy one. I can make no such promise for the picture you're about to watch. The story isn't over. You and the audience are part of the conflict.
More human beings were slaughtered in the 20th century than all previous centuries combined. We're talking a congressional record, 135 million dead. Their entire purpose was to detach our culture from any moral anchors whatsoever. You look at the changes in America since 1960, perhaps. The whole culture has been transformed.
They're coming out of the belief that the village should raise the child. The village means the government.
They have deliberately destroyed the American family, understanding that's the foundational block that builds a society.
We've come from Norman Rockwell's America to Hugh Hefner's America.
If we lose the Judeo-Christian framework, we're lost forever.
The left wants you to think that the cultural changes that have taken place in America since the 1960s have done nothing but progress us forward toward a brave new world. This film will show that the brave new world they seek is nothing more than the failed policies and ideologies of the communism that enslaved over a third of the world's population during the 20th century. It will show that most people on the left aren't communists, just the useful idiots Lenin spoke of, being used to promote a socialist agenda, which is the first and necessary step toward communism.
I think this is one of the most serious threats to our country at the present time.
It will show they've done everything in their power to dumb down our children, undermine their families, rewrite our history, and promote obscenity and immorality everywhere that they can.
They look at what holds society together. They understand it, but they don't want that. They want change. They will subvert and rot every good and decent thing we believe in, because they have a vision for a new society, and that must mean the replacement of the old society.
This film will show why the ideas that now dominate our educational system are focused on removing God and His influence from every part of our culture.
They basically try to say that the state itself is ultimate. If there's nothing, no law higher than the state, and if there's no law higher than the state, there's no appeal against it.
They're training them for the collective.
and a collective mindset and a dependency mindset.
And it seems that they, again, want to have people be uneducated so that they do become wards of the state. They're dependent on the government to provide everything for them.
History has proven beyond any doubt that the free enterprise that freedom produces provides more for anyone willing to work than any other system. So why would the left still be pushing their socialist agenda on us? I mean, it's really just microwave communism. There's only two possibilities. They're either ignorant or they're evil. From my investigation over the last 2 years into what has caused America's drastic decline, I'm sorry to say, the left won't be able to use the ignorant card. They've left too much evidence of their agenda in their books, articles, and speeches. No, America has an enemy that is getting very close to accomplishing its plan of destroying the greatest country in all world history.
Once people figure it out, they're going to do what people everywhere do. They're going to start protesting. They're going to start revolting. And when that happens, that's when the powers that be feel threatened and they use the power that they have.
So, tying this back into what we were talking about a minute ago. Again, this will be our banquet speaker in February, and we do have copies of that film. Jerome Montgomery does, not today, but if you're interested in seeing those, we'll have those here next week. What's the answer? There's a lot of different things that can happen to topple collectivism and communism. It can collapse under its own weight. People can revolt. There can be secession. More immediately, there could be nullification as we try and build a dike and put dams up to protect us from what's rolling in from these larger government entities across our nation and across the world. And so when we look at the candidates that we've endorsed, for example, you know, some of them are just better than the alternative. Some of them are fair to Midland and need more education. Some of them are open-minded, need more education. And some of them already understand this big picture of where we're going, and they understand that the answer right now in front of us is nullification and pushback against improper governance. And so Amanda Teagarden gets that, for example. Paul Blair gets that. Mike Reynolds gets that. So these are guys and girls who deserve our money, our time, our treasure, and our talent to help get them elected. They will be doing everything they can to stick their fingers and toes in all the holes in the dike and try and hold it back for another generation. So I encourage you to support them. So I think this will be a good segue into our program today then. I'll ask Lynn Habluetzel to speak first because she's working on the Paul Blair campaign. But then also she was a delegate to the GOP convention. So we're going to hear from Lynn, then we'll hear from Denise, and then we'll hear from Marc Hader, who are all at the convention and can tell us what kinds of fun stuff happened there. The floor belongs to you three. Thank you.
Thank you. If it's okay with you, I'll talk about Paul Blair first. Like John said, he understands, and that's why we need to get him elected. Have you all heard about the Democrat plot to back Adam Pugh? Yeah. To get the Democrat Kevin McDonald elected in the fall? Have you heard about that? So this teacher caucus is backing Adam Pugh when the head of that, Angela Clark-Little, has said we need Kevin McDonald in November. The Democrat. Yes, the Democrat. So that's what we're fighting. And I think, in my personal opinion, this all started when, with Janet Barisi and Joy Hoffmeister. When the teachers were urged to cross over from Democrat to Republican to get Janet Barisi out. And I think that the idea was planned then, and they're doing it all over the state in other races that you mentioned, like Scott McEachin and Joe Newhouse. So we've had some polling, and it's 50-50. So it's going to be about turnout, like I talked about last time. You have to have your wife vote, your husband vote, your kids vote, your neighbor vote. We also have And Bob Donahue was out last week knocking doors for us and secured some votes. Paul Kelly has been driving Paul Blair. We've had lots of volunteers. But we do have another 1,000-yard signs to put together if anybody wants to come by the campaign office. And phone calls, and Ken Moore's been out as well. Every vote we get matters. This is a race where every vote matters. So I have some information sheets if you want, and my phone number on it if you want to call and see how you can help also. Any questions about that? Oh, go there. Okay. So how did I get to be a delegate? You all know how you get to be a delegate? We don't have to go over that. I did it at CD5, and I ran and I beat some establishment people, so that was kind of fun. And then
Love you for it.
and you spend a lot of money. And you get to buy your uniform. We all had matching shirts, but we all looked really nice. And then you could recognize your team members at the convention. So Denise and I were talking before, so you get there and you think, wow, I'm going to do something. This is going to be an exciting year. We're going to vote on the platform. We're going to vote on the rules. It's going to be so fun. And then you get there and there's nothing to do. So I was depressed the first day because I thought we were actually going to do something. So I guess I haven't been in this game long enough to realize, no, you're not. And then we did have lots of speakers. Pam Pollard had arranged speakers every morning at breakfast. Scott Walker came one time. Denise will remember, she can tell you. There are different events, like A.G. Pruitt was at an event with other attorney generals, and they talked about how they're pushing back against the feds. There was another event where Mary Fallon was. They were talking about criminal justice reform. There were other governors there. So you got to go see and hear from other politicians because, of course, many were there. Then after the first day, I realized we don't really do anything. Everybody said, it's a party, have fun. So one of the things you do at this party is exchange pins. So we were given, somebody donated 30 Oklahoma RNC pins, and so you meet, it's a way to meet other people on the floor. You go around to the other states and exchange pins. I met one state senator from California, and they get paid $98,000 a year, but he was complaining because they get no benefits. So here in Oklahoma, you know, they get retirement and they get very good health insurance. So he was complaining that really $98,000 in California isn't very much money. So you get to meet lots of people and network and hear how things are going in other states. So would I go again? Probably not. But I'm glad I went. I got interviewed by Pop Sugar, the New York Times, and the Czech Republic.
Kind of like Lynn, I actually went through CD3, Lucas's district, and that was an experience to do that. I actually went as an alternate. Mark and I wanted to both go, and we didn't want to seem greedy, so we had one run as a delegate and one as an alternate. Actually, we were offset from each other. And so I was not his backup. I was actually Rex Duncan's because I got to be the Ted Cruz alternate, which was fun. And I knew that Rex was not going to give me the opportunity when he got to vote to pass it off to me. But I did get to be on the floor to vote for Mike Pence. So yeah, I got to do that. It is very different. Yeah. We've got platform. Here's the pins. We've got Trump paraphernalia. These are our badges that we wear during the event. It was, to give you kind of an idea, I was encouraged. Cleveland was very pretty. I've never been there before. They have industrial area downtown, and I believe they clean that up too. I mean, their piles of rocks look nice.
Seriously?
Seriously, yeah, it really did look well. And so I feel like one thing that encouraged me when we always feel like Oklahoma City maybe couldn't have an event like that is yes, we could, because we were spread out all over. We were 30 minutes outside of Cleveland, but I know, didn't they say they stayed as far as Akron? I mean, they were way out. So that encouraged me that we were about as far as Edmond to downtown Oklahoma City. So if we ever wanted to have some kind of event in Oklahoma City, we absolutely have got the hotel rooms to do something that large. But what we did was we would take a bus every time we were coming into the convention. We would have to have our credentials on. They did check our IDs before we ever got our credentials to make sure. And these were Oklahoma people, and they were still checking, which I appreciated. I was glad to give my ID to show who I was. Then we were assigned bags that this is what we could take in, anything that could fit in here. And we still got it checked. We still got everything done. I take my purse in and they go through. I have a little contact case. They opened it up to make sure what it was. So it was a lot of security.
How'd you get together?
It made it a little difficult. I didn't do that.
We had a pretty well-armed delegation, I will tell you that.
But the first night that we did, and I'm telling you the party part, Mark's going to tell you a little more about the actual things he did get accomplished. But it was a party, and I was going to have a good time, Lynn, because I knew I was spending a lot of money. And please be aware, we took taxis or Ubers and Lyfts. Most people believe that the party, whoever the party is paying for this stuff. No. We pay our own way. And we just went to Ireland for 2 weeks. We spent the same amount going to Ireland for 2 weeks as we did to go 4.5 days to Cleveland. So it's not cheap. But anyway, that first night, what was really fun for me, we went and we had a reception at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They bussed us in, hundreds of charter buses. We had the interstate. They had the whole interstate blocked off. They had our bus driver stand up and show his ID to the police. When we got in, it was state troopers, I guess. When we got down to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, on top of the museum next door was a .50 caliber machine gun. So there was lots of security. I mean, I did feel safe. I wasn't afraid, except we did have one event where we actually walked through the protesters to get from the venue into the convention area. And I was a little nervous at first, and then there was a group of bicycle police officers. They had their bike shorts on, body armor, full helmets, and full cameras. And we watched it. I said, oh, Mark, let's get up with them. And then, you know what? Truly, it hit me, and I thought, I don't want to walk with them. And I felt awful that was the way I felt. That I felt like they were the target, not me. And I felt awful, but it made me appreciate what they do for me on a regular basis. But even that, the protesters, they set that up, which was very smart. They had a big plaza, and they had a microphone set up, and they would allow anybody that wanted to sign up to get to speak. And so they said that helped very much to deflate the animosity, that people felt like they were getting a chance to be heard, and so they were a little calmer, because, I mean, they were loud, believe me, they were plenty loud, but they weren't as violent because they felt like they were getting to have their say. And it was my understanding they only had about 20 people actually arrested, where they had, during the whole time, where in California, or for the Democrats, they had more than 20 people on one day. So, but we were afforded an opportunity to hear several different people, like I said, Scott Walker. We got to hear Donald Trump's foreign policy advisor, Schmitz. Yeah, that's what encouraged me more is I went as a cruise. The whole reason we went is because we thought it was going to be a brokered convention and it was going to be exciting. Something, you know, Woodstock, oh, I was there. And so that's what we thought we were going to get. And by the time we got there, it was not. But it was still exciting. The night the crew spoke, they did let us get on the floor, and we got up all the way close. We were able to do that. You can tell about the little bit of grief you got on that. But it was an adventure. Same with Lynn. Do I think I'll go again? I don't know. Because I do see that our party is fracturing, and not out of animosity, not just fighting, but we just don't see it the same way. And so, say what?
Too big a tent.
Yes, and so it's a little bit discouraging. But as far as a party, it was fun. We got to visit with people that I've never talked to. We actually met a man from Florida that's eating at Ishams in Okarche, which is actually in Mark's district. So, you know, stand there long enough, you figure out. My mother was a little worried because Mark had to go a week by himself first because of being on the platform committee. She's supervision. Yeah. Well, she was just concerned about him being alone or lonely. I said, Mom, 80% of these people are just like us. They're going to talk to a fence post. It's going to be just fine. And we did. I mean, that was the fun part of it, is finding out. I'm not a big Donald Trump fan before this time. Got to still visit with a lot of people and find out why a lady from Massachusetts felt like she was a conservative. Well, talking to her in her state, she probably is a conservative. In Oklahoma, not so much, but it was helpful to have that perspective. So let me give more time to Mark because he has more real nuts and bolts. But I do encourage you, if you're in the Republican Party, and I know not everybody in here is, but there are other parties, if you have an opportunity, go, because it does open your perspective, but save up if you do.
I have a question. I want you to be thinking of your favorite Ireland story to tell us. You talk about how you can talk to anybody anywhere, so tell us about somebody you met in Ireland or something fun you had in a bar over there. Now, help me out, but I heard somewhere within the last couple of weeks that Ireland has stopped abortion. Did anyone else get that news? Is that true?
They're highest court.
I haven't researched it yet, but if so, they may be the first European nation to go back the other way on that. So that could be encouraging. I'll try and find out about that if you'll remind me. Ireland story, now, later?
I will say we did go for 2 weeks. We go when we get a deal. So, we went to India last year, so we go because we get a deal. But we were gone almost 2 weeks. The best part for me was the cliffs of Moher, which are, 400 or 500 feet down. I mean, they're just incredible. We don't have it here in Oklahoma. Of course, when we pull up, they go, okay, now be prepared. It's a little bit windy. They don't even know what wind is. So that was just fine. What was surprising is you see a lot of signs about, are you okay? Can I help you? And this is a beautiful area. So when we get back on the bus, we said, what's that all about? And they said, that is the #1 place where people commit suicide. Because they just step off the cliff. Because it's not ADA, we can walk right up to the edge, look out, have a great time. And unfortunately, they say they have a lot of trouble with people committing suicide. But Ireland, friendly, great place. We went to Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. We're blessed to live in America, but it's sure nice to have the freedom to go visit other places.
Before you do this, I just want it noted that Denise defeated me in a runoff to be the crew's alternate, and Mark defeated me in a runoff to be the Rubio delegate. So I'm the big loser to both of these things.
How's your bank account, Charlie?
It's a lot better off than theirs.
Charlie didn't honor his commitment to go as an alternate. Actually, he deferred. He actually won multiple times. We were filling 6 spots, and Rex Duncan won the first overall of 19 people. And then I won the second one, and then I think you were actually third, and you kept deferring, didn't you? Because
actually, when it got to Denise,
he deferred. He was going to be willing to be the Trump alternate when it was going to be a contested convention. But by the time we got down to it, he backed out. He didn't honor his commitment, and he saved a bunch of money. Now I'm just kidding. So, anyway, I'll touch on Ireland since we mentioned it. And one of the things first of all, I liked it really well. It's a beautiful place, and no matter where you turn, you can take a snapshot, and it's something you could frame almost. It's very clean, and the Republic, it's interesting, the dynamics between the Republic of Ireland and the Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is still controlled by the English, and it actually is not as clean or as pretty, and there's a little bit of a difference you can kind of tell. But the Brexit vote was less than a week out from when we were there, so we were talking to people a lot about that, and it was very interesting. I mean, they got out. I think the main things people talked about was that they got out because of the immigration policy of the EU. I think that may have been the leading thing, but I do think it also was that both they and Germany are looked to be the funding source for everybody spending like crazy.
That's right.
So anyway, and then the folks that we met were saying, oh, we hope they don't leave because we want their money to help us improve our country. So, but people were delightful. Our tour guide was Roman Catholic, and there was another. We got another guide for specifically in the town of Derry, which is where William of Orange came over and confronted King James, and anyway, basically overthrew the English and took over the monarchy. And it was an interesting story. But I like that guide really well. He was actually. His parents, one was Mark, I can't hear in the back. One of his parents was Irish Catholic, and the other I think his mother was from Tibet, and so he has this very distinct look. But I asked both him and our tour guide, who both were Catholic, I said, well, tell me about this. I said, as we get around here, we're touring all these beautiful Gothic cathedrals and things, you know, but I don't see anybody, not to be critical, but I said, I don't see people here worshiping. They look like they're more tourist centers for people like us, you know, to gain. I said, you know, are you guys Catholic by birth, by lineage, you know, or are you Catholic by conviction? You know, and they both admitted that, well, you know, truly, it's just, you know, I was kind of born Catholic, and so I said, well, I don't necessarily understand the why everybody feels so strongly about the old, you know, conflicts and things, if that's the case, you know. So we had some conversation about that, and the guide that in Derry actually talked about how he's trying to, you know, help kids learn to get along better and things, and it is people just carry on these axes to grind from hundreds of years of history, you know. So it was sad, but they are a country just like all of Europe that is kind of bereft of Christian conviction. So anyway, I enjoyed the people, and I didn't have even one thing that was my favorite, but I'd encourage you if you get a chance to go. So I want to talk about more of the experience, because I actually was on the platform committee. I and Carolyn McClarty, our state committee woman, represented us, and I think, not we specifically, but collectively, we did a really nice job. You know, our party has been fracturing and evolving, and you would anticipate, I think, in 2016 that it would be hard to get, you know, hardly true conservatives or constitutionalists or whatever you want to label yourself as to come together and keep our platform strong. But after we came away, we had people like David Barton and Wall Builders, and we had Tony Perkins from Family Research Council involved, as well as other folks. And I've always thought I'm pretty knowledgeable, I'm pretty sharp. I didn't talk a lot because there were some great minds and much more articulate folks than myself. And I think we crafted, in fact, most people came away feeling that we crafted the best platform in a long time, if not in history. So, what I'll tell you about that was the platform was overall, it was a good process and fairly unfettered, with the exception we did have a handful of liberals. We had a girl from DC, and we had a girl from New York who were very vocal, and then there were a few people like from Maine, some former Ron Paul supporters, for example. You could tell just by the policies they were trying to get into the platform had that flavor. And it's funny because I found myself voting on a few things with the issue from Maine, like things like declaring war. I said we should follow the Constitution. Carolyn voted not to include that plank or something. It's not that Carolyn's, you know, a bad person, or we're on board almost everything. But I just found it interesting. So I was in the minority on a few things that I felt like were a little more tied to the Constitution. But it was a good process, very fair, and it's kind of rushed. And it wasn't until we got to the Constitution section, which was the last one that we ended up deliberating, but it was very clear that either the Trump campaign or the RNC or the two combined, I don't know how to define it, wanted to control some aspects of that. And two issues on the judiciary that they seem to care about were, we had quoted Hamilton in citing that the judiciary was intended to be the weakest of the three branches. You know, we actually put the quote, and we wanted that in there. And they tried to take weakest out and make it the least dangerous was the term they wanted to replace that. So I thought that was, I actually thought that sounds like a Trumpism. I mean, it almost sounds like something on his level. So yeah, and then the other thing was we wanted to, we had about two small paragraphs that suggested that we encourage Congress to exercise their constitutional ability and right, when appropriate, to impeach judges that legislate from the bench. Again, it was a real fight to keep that in there, but we were successful in keeping both those planks, if you will, in the platform, and everything. Most of the other things they didn't seem to care about. And the truth is that our establishment and the candidate don't really care what the platform says. So I'll move forward. We did that the first 2 days. Gary Jones and Megan Winburn were on the Rules Committee, and I got to sit in the audience for quite a bit of their deal, and that was different. It was very controlled, very coerced, and in fact, at one point, Gary Jones was able to show, we had Mike Lee on that committee for one, and he and others, wish I could think of, it's one of our, all of us would refer to, Morton Blackwell, anyway, we're giving these passionate things about how we should change the rules to be more rewarding of states that would have closed primaries, so that we get candidates that are more representative of our values and things like that, and they would give wax poetic. I mean, any reasonable person that didn't have an agenda
would have easily voted for that, and everything was going down 70-30, you know. And so Mike Lee, after one thing, was just commonsensical, you know, kind of went, what is going on? And so Gary Jones gets up and walks, and he's in the aisle behind Gary, so he walks up and he shows him his phone, and he said, look, here's every vote. We're being told to vote yes or no. You know, whoever they thought was sympathetic to, again, either the campaign or the establishment or both. I don't know which it was. But anyway, and once Gary did that, he got cut off from getting those texts because you're not playing the game. So anyway, that's fine. But the rest thing, I think the credentials went fine. The two controversies they had there's some issue with someone that was claiming to be a delegate from D.C., but they couldn't show that they actually lived there. And then the state of Colorado, with how they basically went to their convention and just said, that's where we're going to pick our delegates. They wanted to throw the whole thing out. I think Colorado and Iowa ended up walking over that at some point on votes on the floor. So the convention itself, I thought was fine. I enjoyed it. It was, you could tell there was whether the party or the candidate, you know, the campaign were trying to create a false sense of enthusiasm that wasn't necessarily there, but the people that were enthusiastic for Trump were very enthusiastic, and justifiably so. People like us, I think, we were there to take our opportunity to vote our conscience for Ted Cruz or whatever, and we did. And we weren't there to be divisive. Now, because of the way the rules was handled in the committee process, when the document came to the floor, we had a sense that we didn't have enough numbers to defeat it, but we wanted to force the issue to have at least a vote to show that people were unhappy with how it was created. And we tried to press that, and I don't know who might have been watching, but if you saw, you know, we tried to, you know, call for division and get a voice vote, get somewhere on the record, let's put this on. And they actually left the stage at one point because they didn't feel like they could kind of force that on people, and you could tell they were back talking to attorneys and what can we do by the rules and law and things. And they finally came back and just quickly, they claimed that there had originally been 11 states which was over whatever threshold we needed to be able to call for a recorded vote, and but 3 of those had mysteriously withdrawn and then later we heard that 2 or 3 more were, and we had the number, but they basically said, the ayes have it, gavel, let's move on, and so we felt like that was kind of coerced. So outside of that, it was an enjoyable party. When we got down to, and again, I'll just say, because being Cruz supporters, I don't know what you guys thought. I thought Ted Cruz gave a very good speech. It was our overarching ideals and principles as he is able to wax poetic. And in the end, it was funny because I had several of my friends within the party that, you know, maybe are a little farther over on the moderate side of things, that as his speech went along, they started almost yelling at me, because I was supposedly an extension of Cruz, I suppose, and they were telling me, if he's not going to endorse, he shouldn't have come, and they were just angry. So anyway, but at the end, as you all know, Ted Cruz said, ultimately says, don't stay home. You know, don't be upset because you're a person who get out and vote. Vote your conscience for those candidates up and down the ballot who will vote for liberty, freedom, and constitutional values. And my question is this: with all the people that were yelling and booing, they were being trumped up by the whips in the aisles to boo Cruz, to kind of boo him off the stage. So it wasn't all that natural of a uprising. But anyway, while I'm having my Oklahoma peers, who again, we were a Cruz state, right? I mean, technically we won, but they were chastising me for him not giving bending the knee and kissing the ring and fully endorsing Donald Trump.
Thank you.
And so my response to them is that if Donald Trump is a candidate who will promote freedom, liberty, and the Constitution, then it was an eloquent and subtle endorsement. You know, I mean, we've lost the ability of wordsmiths to be statesmen and use words to craft this beautiful, rhetoric, and then turn around and say, and if these persons up and down are, then it was an endorsement. And I thought it was funny because Newt Gingrich, who some of us can appreciate his eloquence and his insight, not necessarily the most conservative guy, but he gets up right after that and says, "Why are you all booing? That was an endorsement, wasn't it?" So unusual. And but I still got lots of grief. In fact, I had someone who kind of fell on me so badly that they later came back, 30 minutes later and apologized for what they'd said. But anyway, all in all, it was a great experience. But I'm kind of like Lynn. I've done it before. We did it mainly because we thought this was going to be an historic event where we might have the debate on the floor, a giant caucus, which I'm a big fan of caucusing, where we make passionate speeches and we win people to our cause and our beliefs and things, as opposed to having this kind of a frou-frou ceremony that that we already know what the outcome is going to be. So anyway, for both of you guys, you might come back up here and let's just open up for any questions you might have.
Yes, sir. On the Rules Committee, what I heard, I think it was on a Family Research Council with Tony Perkins, is that it's now a consolidation and centralization of more power to the chairman. Is that how you think it came out, that Reince Priebus has actually more power from this Rules Committee?
It might be, and again, Tony Perkins and several of his staff, we met the night before everything got started, and they kind of helped us about crafting ideas and where to be on issues some. And so if it was said from there, I would trust that's probably the case. I wasn't in the audience because you only had so many guest passes available, so it was really like 60 and everybody wanted to be there, So I was only in there for about 5 hours out of all the deliberation. I kind of got a taste of it, and then finally like, I can't stomach this, I'm going to get out. But I think it did keep control with whether it's the chairman or the RNC committee. It may have moved the needle more for control of them as opposed to back towards the states or that. But like I said, there was a real effort by folks to try and reward, again, more closed primaries to let the citizens have more, and that was all squelched pretty significantly. So.
I'd like to hear from Lynn. I believe you made a side trip to the Creation Museum in Noah's Ark. Could you give us that perspective, please?
We sent at the airport.
Yes, on the way we drove. One thing about the Rules Committee and Platform real quick is the Platform Committee, I think, was very organized ahead of time with David Barton and Tony Perkins. Years ahead to get those people on the committee and organize and get your voting block. The rules, not so much. Plus, it's much more technical than ideals. But we have to be more organized next time. I mean, we say that every time, right? But you learn and then you do better the next time.
Let me tell one more thing on that, and then I'll give it to you. What was funny, Mark had to go the Sunday before, and then the rest of us came in the next week. So Mark wound up being there almost 2 weeks. We knew that going in a little bit, and so we knew the cost. Tony Lowinger also was up there. We thought that was quite funny. I mean, we were glad he was there. He was there, he flew home. As a lobbyist, they knew that the committee would only meet for 2 days. The committee didn't know they would only meet for 2 days.
I could have or would have flown home, but I didn't know.
So they soaked you with all that expense.
Well, luckily, actually,
some people had insider information.
Philip Jackson from Claremore with the New Valley Forge Group, he had a college friend whose parents lived in the area, and he was able to get them to put me up for the week before, so I saved probably $2,000. Creation.
So on the way home, we drove and we stopped at the Creation Museum. It's actually in Kentucky, but it's just outside of Cincinnati. And then about an hour away is Noah's Ark, a replica of Noah's Ark. It is amazing. You have to go. It's about a 10-hour drive from here if you drove. And it's an engineering feat. And they have all the plaques on the walls that talk about the young Earth theory and why and how Noah's Ark proves that, and it's just amazing. We walked through there for 3 hours. It felt like 30 minutes. I'm sure we only saw maybe half, and I'm just amazed.
Exact replica.
Yes, it's huge. And they have a petting zoo.
Huge with Y.
Huge! And they have a petting zoo. It's brand new. It just opened in July. So the wood is beautiful and pristine also, so I suggest going quickly. I assume it looks just like Noah's Ark. It has the living quarters. There's a welding shop, a carpenter shop, their rooms. It has all the animal cages. It shows how they fed them all and watered them all with 8 people. How did they do that? It shows all that. There's plaques all on the wall that have information. and it takes forever to read. So age-wise, you have to be old enough to read, I'd say, and to see those plaques, because they're, you know, eye level, so little kids not so much.
School kids here.
Yeah. The Creation Museum isn't, it's finished, but like, there's 3 areas that they want to add on, the end, and you just go watch a movie for that. And they have a zip line, they're trying to make it kind of, you know, an adventure place. Little restaurant, coffee shop. But Noah's Ark was great.
I got a question for you guys. In terms of Ted Cruz, I enjoyed Ted Cruz's speech very much also, but do you think that Ted Cruz, just by the mere fact that he didn't say, okay, I support Donald Trump even though he won, do you think because he didn't come out and say that killed his career? What's your comments on that, team?
You guys Rochambeau for it. We've got time for one more question.
I don't want to monopolize the commentary here, but actually when we were interviewed, probably between Denise and I about a dozen times, you said you got a few, Czech Republic, France, Italy, one of the Netherlands. Anyway, and Bloomberg Press was one of those that caught us as we were coming out of actually the Ted Cruz reception we went to. And they asked us about, what do we think of, what's the Iowa Senator
Joni Ernst.
Ernst, anyway, that she might be a candidate for president in 2020, you know, how things shake out. What do we feel like about Cruz? You know, and I said, you know, the truth is in this day and age of a 30-second news cycle, that is such an eternity from now that it is not. And all the people that are saying he's you know, he's done. I'm sorry. For those of us that believe in principle, I think we appreciate that he was a man of honor and integrity. I had people criticizing Kasich for not showing up at all, so which is better. Marco Rubio gave a televised speech where he didn't endorse Trump right before, I think, and I haven't heard a single person criticize Rubio for not having endorsed. So it's a hypocrisy about Ted Cruz in particular. So I'm sorry. Whether he stays as a state senator, he will be a great value to our nation. If Donald Trump, out of the blue, nominates him and he gets to be on our Supreme Court, that would be a great place for him to serve. And whether he ends up being our president someday, I think that Ted Cruz will be out there trying to impact our country in a positive way.
We did bring some material back with us, and so donations to OCPAC, you can get these.
All right. Yeah, Mark, you brought up the idea of there was contention or discussion or debate on the idea of Congress, emphasizing Congress to impeach activist judges. I'm curious about the mind of the Republican that would be opposed to that. What is their rationale in thinking?
You're asking somebody that doesn't have a mind and rationale like that. It's fine. I don't know. I think that we have operated in a paradigm since at least World War II with this idea that, you know, how we go about entering and exiting or not out of conflict, and I think that there are enough folks who rationalize that you know we're the good guys, and you know it's not necessarily always an agenda about something, I think, but people are reticent to say, like in a Bush White House, that we would call out that no, we need to follow the rules just like everybody else and not put people into war without the authorization of Congress. So, anyway, like I said, I think we're just a dumbed down society for the most part, and people just kind of think that's the norm and that's how it operates.
I just wanted to say I have been to 3 conventions. I was there in 1988. I was elected by the state GOP on their slate. I was very respectable at the time. And I was also on the platform committee, and Benny Chambers and I did it, and John Sununu was sitting down front, and that whole thing was very orchestrated. We had Phyllis Schlafly and others sending us information and helping us with planks at the time. But it was all very tightly controlled. But in New Orleans, you could walk in and out of the Superdome. Nobody was paying attention. I think they checked your ID when you went on the floor. But it was a far cry from the police state that we encountered in 2012 in Tampa. And it sounds like it was even more overt here. So it's a very sad state of affairs if that's what's going on. I wanted to say that the rules are where the action is. None of the politicians at the state level or the federal level pay any attention to the platform. It's a sort of a political bounce house where the activists can go play. And seriously, while they're out monkeying with the rules and doing what they want to get done. I mean, they didn't even let Ron Paul speak in 2012. He didn't even get to speak. So, I mean, the truth of the matter is the RNC was running that operation. I mean, Trump doesn't have enough clout to be running that whole operation. He's totally dependent on other people to be doing all of that, and they did the same thing in 2012. The same thing in 2008 when we were up in the bleachers, and who was it in 08? Palin or somebody, McCain and Palin. Somebody held up a sign, I forget if things a Ron Paul sign. We had people up in the bleachers where we were sitting, and they pulled 8 of us out and searched everything, and no, they couldn't find the sign. It's totally orchestrated. And so a lot of what you experience is just the way it has been, and they do the same thing on a smaller scale at the state party. The good news is if we get organized in our neighborhoods and our precincts, we can take our government back. We really can. I've become president of my neighborhood association the last 7 months, and I realized that's the missing link. And if everybody here got active in their neighborhood association and in their precinct, and we could get all the activist groups to do that, we could take back state and local governments. It'd be that easy.
Wow, that was such an excellent word to end on right there. Let's give all these folks a hand for what they've done. Thanks, guys. Okay, quick observation and announcement, and then we'll be done. My observation in listening to all of this is that it's an example of a pattern that repeats itself throughout our society and our culture. We write something down on a piece of paper, we say this is the law and we're all going to follow it, and then it doesn't matter. They go to the convention, they write a platform, it doesn't matter. The candidates don't have to follow it. We have state law, we have a state constitution, the legislature doesn't follow it doesn't matter. We have a federal constitution, they don't follow it doesn't matter. So it all comes down to nullifying, pushing back, disobeying evil immorality, and selecting for ourselves leaders who are righteous. That's really all we can do. Whether it's our neighborhood association or our state capital, we have to support righteous people and hope that they will fight for us every which way we turn. So that's my kind of takeaway from today. I'd like to recognize former Representative Charles Key came in. Appreciate everything that you do. And finally, this card here on the table is for Sally Kern, who will be our speaker next Wednesday. We have all this neat paraphernalia that came back from Cleveland. I'm putting the box up here, put $1 in there and take anything you want. That's the end of our meeting today. See you next week.